All right, welcome back. If we took this next story as a script to Hollywood, there would be no takers to make it into a movie. It's too unbelievable. The United Nations Climate Summit in Dubai last week had some interesting gourmet food options on their menu. Now, you'll remember that they asked the more developed nations to severely limit their beef intake, right? As they believe it's the big reason for greenhouse gases. Now, they want offending countries to do their part and put down their steak knives. Those in charge of the COP28 menu apparently didn't get the memo. Here are just a few of the offerings last week. According to the summit's online portal, their own portal, its food offerings included juicy beef, slabs of succulent meat, smoked Wagyu burgers, Philly cheesesteaks, and quote-unquote melt-in-your-mouth barbecue. Well, I think they left something out like open mouth insert foot. That should have been on there too, right? There you have it. They don't hide it anymore. Nope. It brings to mind stories like the French Laundry, doesn't it? Now, I'm sure my next guest has a thing or two to say about this. We talked to her about it last week. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, thanks for coming on. You and I talked about what they wanted to do to curtail our beef intake, but at the same time, they're advertising those things on their web portal about what they're serving the attendees. Amazing hypocrisy.
It's so irritating. Like, how do you have a summit where you're talking about, and you announced that one of your main tenets is the agro and food production process problem with the green culture, and that we've got to get, the United States to stop eating over 120 pounds of meat a year and go down to something less than 30 to 40 pounds or less. We're talking about 2/3 of a cut, Scott. And Americans, we have our protein, we have our meat. And then you're going to serve Wagyu burgers, which Wagyu is one of my favorites. I'll go anywhere for a great Wagyu steak. So you're going to give me a Wagyu burger and barbecue, but you're going to literally, right after the conference just closes up for lunch, saying that we can't have these people eating these meat products. It is such a return to what I consider feudalism, right? It's the ruling class that wants to make us lease everything, own nothing. It's like SaaS, software as a service. We're talking about we're going to lease our lights, we're going to lease our cars, we're going to lease our beds, we're going to lease everything. And that is when you cannot own, it is perpetual serfdom. You are constantly having to pay the landlord, your lord, to live. And this is what they envision. And their vision is very clear, Scott. They get to have what they want while they tell us we can't enjoy our lives.
That's what I meant about the French Laundry. You're exactly right. It's rules for thee and not for me. Two things I'd add to that too. There was a research that I read before we came on air about a woman that lived in communist China about 40 or 50 years ago when they had rationed beef, where they rationed protein, right? And she said that she has the proof that it led to a much unhealthier society. Folks got sicker, they were weaker, and it only was when they started to let beef and pork run wild and everybody could have as much as they want that people started to get a lot healthier. So this flies in the face of trying to be healthy, number one. Number two, when did the UN start to get in the business of food rationing? I mean, I thought they were there to keep us away from fascism and bad governments. When did they switch their role in our lives?
Well, the United Nations has been on I would say a 2-decade bent of one world government. They are definitely between what they're doing with the WHO, the World Health Organization, and inside of themselves, these committees, these governance, these agro green now moving into the farming, moving into the food supply. This is really, Scott, a push to totalitarian control, and they really want the communist social credit model. Everyone is going to have a personal carbon footprint. And it's going to be tracked by what I understand in America, the actual credit bureaus. All of them have signed on sort of with BlackRock to sort of have this individual carbon footprint. And then we will have our 15-minute cities if the World Economic Forum has its way. And you will not be able to go beyond your 15-minute city if you don't have a high enough social credit score. If you can't, there's a lot of things that are all coming together that are basically a totalitarian model of control that is modeled after communist China's social credit system. And Americans need to wake up because no one's stopping to ask if we want to participate. The United States is voting with the UN. The United States is voting with the World Health Organization. In fact, the Biden administration promulgated and wrote the actual amendments to the World Health Organization's, health treaty that is supposed to circumvent the sovereignty of nations. So this is all happening as a global confluence coming together, Scott, in a global plan to really send us back to controlled serfdom. This is what they're trying to accomplish. They think that we shouldn't have anywhere near 8 billion people. They are comfortable with 500 million to 2 billion. And that means there's 6 billion plus people that they don't need to feed adequately if they're going to have their way. I'm just sorry, but that is the truth.
Well, it's not crazy talk either. I mean, it's out there in black and white. They definitely want to reduce the population. They think the world's overpopulated. So, you've got the UN, the WHO, you already mentioned, and the World Economic Forum. They're also in on this too, by the way. And you can sum up all those three units by saying that the carbon that they want to get rid of is you.
Yeah, that you can't say it better. The carbon they want to get rid of is the human race to the tune of 6 billion people.
And they're not going to stop. So they're flouting it in front of our eyes, just like Newsom at the French Laundry. They're flying in on their jets. You see their web portal, but they're eating succulent beef and Wagyu burgers. But they're going to tell you what you can have, and they're going to tell you how you can. And I think that we had a guest that summed it up best. I'll follow your rules if you do them first. You go ahead. 10 seconds. 10 seconds to you.
It'll never happen.
right, exactly right. Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you. We knew exactly who to have that talk with, and that was you. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Have a great time in New York. Rebecca Walser, Walser Wealth Management. Thanks for being on the show. By now.